Welcome everybody to episode 6 of the Fully Pinned podcast with Daniel Paine. Cheers, brother, for coming on. Thank you so much for joining me and having a yarn. It was absolutely epic having you. It was really cool to get an insight and see the other side of that world in a professional's career, especially from a mechanic's point of view, and just have a yarn and chit chat and talk about heaps of different stuff. Guys, I think you will really enjoy the episode. Before we get into it, I'm just going to shout out some businesses that I love, use and endorse. Right from the get-go, we just want a massive thanks to All Mountain Sports for everything they do for me and the community. Then we got Crush cleaning products, of course. We got Spank Bikes, love their gear. Leah MTB, Purity Plant Protein, Bike Corp, mate, and that's it. Let's get into it. The Fully Pinned podcast, episode 6 with Daniel Painey. Paine, it's a go. Let's go.
No one likes spending money on cars.
Nah, but they love to spend money on bikes.
That's right. So yeah, I'd lay the chair over and put a plank of wood on, and I just would always jump that. And I remember breaking the rear wheel on it when I was super young. So yeah, I'm pretty.
All right, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in. This is episode 6 of the Fully Pinned podcast. Now, I'm super stoked to have Daniel Paine on the potty today. Thank you so much for making time for it, bro.
Yeah, no worries at all. Good to come on and have a chat.
Yeah, that's it, man. It must be just to lock things down. I've this time of year, mid-season for everybody, is just such a busy time because obviously you've got a bit of a break before the next races for the downhill, but also it's 2-month gap for the EDR. What do you do in this? What happens in this space for someone like yourself?
Well, I'm in the UK here at the moment, and it's summer, so it's wedding season. So just on a personal basis, there's things going on every weekend. But as for the work side of things, the people do it differently. I'm lucky enough to be in a position where YT or being a mechanic, YT is my job. Solely my job. So theoretically, you would get a couple of months off. But I'm actually going to head up to World Champs and help out with the downhill team. So yeah, just waiting for that really. Going to go over and check out the Tour de France. So yeah, just keep busy.
Keeping busy. I imagine being a. I should have said a little bit more. Painey is, if for anyone that doesn't know who Daniel is, he's the full-time mechanic for the YT Mob. So the team that races under that banner, you're doing all the bike work for him, so to speak. How did you get into being a mechanic? Was it were you an eager kid years ago, wanted to work in a shop, and it kind of just grew out from there, or?
I basically, at the end of school, I was not loving school at all, and I just wanted basically
can relate.
So I actually did my trade as a motor mechanic, so working on cars, and so I did that. I didn't really get along with that because, well, the actual work and stuff like that was great, but the just being workshop and with maybe 2 or 3 other guys was kind of just a bit boring, really. And
gotcha.
Yeah, so I just started to just wanted to work in a bike shop. I was riding mountain bikes and stuff at the time, and just convert across. And what the first thing I noticed was it was really good to deal with customers that they wanted to be there rather than they felt like they had to be there. No one likes spending money on cars.
Nah, but they love to spend money on bikes.
That's right. So yeah, enjoyable experience. And so I just started in shops, and that was probably 10, 15 years ago now. I don't want to make myself feel too old.
Bro, I doubt. Yeah, look, I can feel that. If I could, I'd just edit this part out here, just these silver bits in, and then we'll just never speak of it again, eh? It feels like those moments in our lives, like I've that story I told you before we, started recording about me bombing that hill. That part of my life literally feels like it's in another, because that was high school, and high school was a long ass time ago.
Yeah.
And it's funny how we talk about these beginnings in our lives, and then all of a sudden you have this realization of the moment that you're in now in your life, and you're like, damn, I can remember that stuff like it freaking happened yesterday. But now now it's one foot in front of the other. Like I'm in my stage of life, you're in your stage of life doing, work with, YT, and it's so crazy to think what can happen if you just simply keep putting one foot in front of another and work towards it, How did you get into off the back of that, how did you get into start when you started working, pro circuit, so to speak? Like, did someone pick you up, or did you have friends that you rode with that put you in contact with racers? Like, how did it kind of merge from the shop to, working a racing circuit?
Yeah. So, I guess it's just contacts and stuff like that. So,
yeah.
And just a group of people that sort of all came together. So I knew Jack from early days with bike racing and stuff like that. So
yeah,
and one of his good mates, I grew up with his family. Also, one of my housemates and one of my friends from years ago, he works at SRAM.
Okay,
and
cool.
We all sort of just, this is going back to 2018. I worked with Jack in 2019 for the intense squad for the downhill.
Yep.
So yeah, that's basically how it sort of came apart. It's just people, and you need to obviously put yourself in the right position, and like you were saying, like one foot in front of the other. Like you just need to I guess have the knowledge and all that sort of stuff. So you're building all, and then everything just comes together. I'm sure it happens a lot of different ways for a lot of different people, but that's how mine came about. And then a couple of years he had with Canyon, they already had like mechanics and stuff sorted.
Yeah.
And so we sort of spoke through that time, but nothing really lined up from either his end or my end. And then when he moved across to YT for 23, required a mechanic. And
hey, you got a job? You want a job?
And also like being based in the UK now, job a little bit more accessible, because coming from Oz, it's really difficult to to get a job in this industry, basically, or not the industry, but like in the race paddock.
Oh, it kind of speaks testament to like how crazy it is that Australia got to host 2 rounds, not just like a race or like a points grab through Oz Cycling or something like that, but like 2 full rounds of the the EDR under the UCI like man. Now like it's pretty nuts, because all those guys getting here, it's like all those other races, like Americans, all the guys from the UK, Euro guys, that's like just in flights alone, that's silly money, let alone their wages, whatever their teams pay for food. So like it really does like put it into perspective. Like if you want to make moves, regardless, like you kind of got to get there or go there. It was into your, I guess, in your career choice.
Yeah, like the EDR rounds that we had in Tasmania earlier this year, they were really expensive for the team. Like I was super stoked, obviously, to like just on a selfish note, and like I can speak for I think all of the Aussies here. It's like really, really nice to have one at home or have 2 at home. But for the teams and stuff like that that are mostly based in Europe, really expensive, hard on logistics, not very professional setups and stuff like that over there. Like, just, you know, for all of our sponsors, and well, we don't necessarily have sponsors for our team the way we do it.
Yeah.
For sponsors in general, it's not very professional, or I'm sure it's, you know, not the greatest rounds for them because they're not plastered all over everyone's stuff.
Yeah, nah, I heard a bunch of different conversations around that, you know, topic come out of there, but I think it's fair to say, being an Aussie and like seeing that, it's just like, that's sick for us, you know, to get people ahead. We don't really get, I mean, apart from the Crankworks tour like happening in Cairns, and then you might get, I think Laurie Jackson, Cammy Balanche, like there was like quite a few pros out at Cannonball, and stuff like that. But other than that, like we don't get to see much because compared to that, like if you lived there, you'd say this is the ass crack of the earth, and vice versa. Like people that live here think that Europe is the ass crack because it just takes so long to get to. But I can imagine it would have been an absolute money pit for some of those teams coming over. But how sick for us that we got to see and host, and the locals being there, you know, getting to see, you know, some of their heroes and stuff like that, just, you know, flogging through Medina. That's pretty dope.
Yeah, it's really cool. And like there is some other sort of good points to it as well. And it's like, it is a world enduro series.
Yep.
So I think that we should, you know, try and go to each continent as much as we can. And then the other thing is that, again, like a little bit of a selfish point of view, but I think it shows how difficult it is to perform on a really high level with things like, you know, the 24 to 30 hours of travel time that you have.
Yeah.
And all of those sorts of things. Like, it's really difficult as an Aussie, and I'm more so talking for the athletes here than people in like my role, but to get overseas and then perform the week after is really difficult. It's like it's a big task, but they all seem to be up for it, and they do really well.
Now, it's funny to think about, as you were saying it, I was just like, man, because I don't know how early, you know, everyone rocks up. Like, there's only so much YouTube a man can consume in one day, right? But you know, let's just say there's maybe 5 to 7 days. Of those 2 days, it purely would be, I mean, for the races as such, there's probably this is just me guessing. I don't know exactly what the process is. Probably rehydration, recovery, and sleep, because you've been traveling, which means you probably haven't been eating good, probably haven't been sleeping good. And then you've got maybe a day or two after that, you've got track walk and then practice. Like, it's crazy to think that in that small turnaround, like, the switch is on.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's wild.
Yeah. Going back to like the Daniel days with Jack, like the races were paired together, so they were sort of like a week or two apart, and we flew to and from Europe basically, I think probably to Europe 3 times, and then to North America's the 4th time.
Yeah.
I think rounds, including world champs or something that year. So yeah, we would come in like only kind of a few days before track walk and stuff like that. So he was trying to do those things like you just said, like get on top of nutrition, hydration, sleep, get in like a
rhythm,
the time zone as quickly as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I think all of the Aussies do that really well, but what you're comparing it to is basically someone that's already on the time zone, like already doing those things like 100% of the time. So like all the locals. So yeah, it makes it's almost like a disadvantage, but yeah, as I said, like the Aussies are all super motivated and stuff like that, and they do really well at it. So yeah, I don't want to complain too much.
Look, it's a fair point. Like, it's a pretty hectic thing. I understand, a vast majority of that circuit being involved in, various parts of Europe and then North America. Some of the best riding and the best trails in regards to what you want out of enduro comes from a lot of those things. But it would be cool to see, it's a common theme, obviously, especially in the downhill world circuit. And there's a couple of people not making noise about it, but talking about it at the moment. Like, not the same, tracks, but it's the same 6 or 7 places, every year. It all comes down to the dollar, but it'd be cool to see more variety and more places, each year. I know obviously they change tracks a little bit, but it would be cool to see more variety. Like, that's, why I think it was super special that obviously we got to host those 2 rounds. But who knows what's going to happen, with, obviously everything going over to Discovery for DH and then going from EWS to an EWR. Like, who knows what's going to look like in the next 3 to 4 or 5 years. So very interesting subject, that one, for sure.
Yeah. I think they obviously can't implement all of the changes that they want to do in the first year. So I think we're going to see continual changes over the next years. And I don't know what that involves and stuff like that, but for the most part, just from the outside looking into the downhill and stuff, which has seen the most changes this year. As a spectator, and I've seen the guys work at Leogang, one of the downhill rounds, but I wasn't directly involved. But it looks fantastic. I think from a fan's point of view, and I'm a massive fan still. The amount of racing, the amount of racing that you can watch and stuff like that, and super cool. But hopefully some venues, there's a little bit of change there for everyone.
I think there will. I think with a lot of the people are making a fair bit of noise about it now. So and quite often you hear, the races, in each in EDR and in DH, that's they are the reason that there is a business. If the races just said we're not coming, it's what are we going to do? Obviously they can't because, contractual obligations, it's a job, it's a livelihood. But if enough people make noise and it's starting to get that murmur, I think slowly, as you say, there will be things that'll come up, and new opportunities. So it's going to be interesting to see where it goes.
Yeah, for sure. We'll just have to ride it out and see.
Yeah, I know that, bro. What was your on a bit more of a comical note? What was your first bike? Was it a Julie? Was it a BMX? What was it? Way back.
Yeah, if we go way back, I don't remember the brand or anything like that, but it was a 12-inch sort of little BMX bike. I remember it had plastic wheels. And
yes,
yes. There's I remember breaking the rear wheel on it. It's my own. I had this backyard. It was quite small, and it was no grass. It just had it was tiled or pavers or something.
Yeah, so you used to slide it, eh?
So it just had a racetrack, and I used to put our we had a table and chairs out the back. I'd lay the chair over and put a plank of wood on, and I just would always jump that. And I remember breaking the rear wheel on it when I was super young. So I've pretty, as soon as I could ride a bike, just absolutely loved it, and I've loved bikes ever since.
Did you ever do any racing yourself?
Yeah, so I was also into moto, so I got a moto when I was a kid and quite young. So sort of my racing and stuff like that I did until I was probably 15, 16. From the age of 4. But I rode bikes, mountain bikes in general that whole time. And from about 16 is when I got into mountain bikes heavily. And just started off at club level and I loved it. So I did as much as I could, and we had a really strong sort of national series back then. So
yeah,
like save some money and then kind of hit the road for 8 weeks. You would go back to work and stuff in between, but like just for 8 weeks over summer or 10 weeks, whatever it was, you'd just be spending bulk cash and be on the road and go away racing with your mates. It was great.
Yeah, good. It's kind of like what I'm looking to get Frother on at the moment. We've been chatting a little bit, and here and Bergs and like all those boys are pretty much living out of a van in Europe for 5 months, and I was like, I'm in a different stage of my life, but I just think if I could have a getaway, that it was just me and the boys, it would pretty much sound like that or something like that, in backcountry US or somewhere in Europe, jump in a van, like just go racing or go ride bikes. It'd be so gnarly.
Yeah.
Dream.
Yeah.
A whole lot of cash has got to go, but flip, you don't forget that stuff.
No, that's right. And like you just never know what can happen too, right? Like you want to like enjoy those times while you can. Like, you could get hurt, like, or anything. Like you just you can't hold out for experiences, when there's the right time is what I'm trying to say. Like you just need to take those when you can. And I wasn't serious. I never sort of took work too seriously. Like around those times, I was talking about, like, obviously I went there and I did my apprenticeship and all that sort of stuff, but it wasn't the be all end all. Like you definitely like wanted to get away, and keeping money in your account wasn't necessarily important.
Yeah. Goodbye. I mean, that's why you go and do those things. And like when you're young, you don't really have like those obligations and things like that. When my band, that this is when we play our last show, my band, like 2011, I think, we'd be gone for like a month in New Zealand, or like, I've been to, with my old job, like they flew me all over America, and it's just, and when you were there, like, and when I went to America like a few years back, like I was married at this time, and I still probably spent way too much money. But even my wife was like, she's just like, oh well, who knows when you're going to get to experience that, like this again, or go to this store, or see this show, or be in this place. Like, it's very, very much like you said, you made that point, like you got to live in that moment. You got to take that moment for sure.
Yeah, and you never know what is going to come from those times and stuff as well. Like the people bump into, just you don't want to be structured all of the time.
Sorry, one of my kiddos is up. Give me 2 seconds. I'll be right back, brother. All right, we're good. That was a pretty intense scream. And that is the stage of life that I am in. I just heard it. I heard it like winding up like a Formula One car. I was like, damn, that's pretty loud. I don't think that's in the bedroom. I was like, whoop.
How old are you?
My kids are 5. Oh, he's 6 actually. What are we? July, August, September. Whoa, he is 6 very soon. Holy hell! Look at that time. 2017 he was born, and my daughter is 3 in January. Yeah. Time.
Good age.
It just
3.
goes. Pardon?
A good age 3, I reckon. Like, they're becoming like their own human, aren't they? Like they can communicate. They're cool.
Oh, it's so true. Like it's wild. Like Maria and I, like, it's really hard because, and they're like overt, like intense jealousy. Like my son's way past it. But like he still has moments. Like we might be at dinner. Like I gave Marcy a compliment, or she did something. That's Marciana's my daughter's name. She did something funny, and I think I laughed, or I had just my reaction to it, and then my son impersonated it, and I was just, you see those little moments where it's like, oh, if I do that, But she is in this stage, like you say, of like her personality is just like screaming through, and she's really, really cheeky, and like kids say that, parents will say that about their kids, but she just got such an oddball personality, and it's so funny just watching it. Like, it's so funny watching it come out, man. Like the other night, I heard her screaming, and I was like, "What the hell is that?" And I was doing some work in this office thing here, and I ran into the room, and she was jumping on my wife's head. It's so hard not to laugh, because the last thing I expected to see when I opened the door was this like 2-and-a-bit-year-old just stomping my wife. It was pretty funny. Have you got like nephews, nieces? What's the go for you?
Yeah, so I've got a niece that's I think 7. I should probably know. And a nephew that's 3 as well. And just like I just love that age of sort of like 3, 4, where they're so one, you can torment them easy.
Yeah.
But they're like, you can get them to do stuff, and they can communicate. They're just like a bunch of fun.
That's just so much fun. I will say though, like, man, parenting, and I'm sorry to the parents that watch this or people that have got kids on the way. Like, parenting is like easily the hardest thing that I've ever done. I actually said this to my wife the other night. I'm like, it's so perplexing. Like, there are times of such intense stress, because like what I've really had to remind myself in the past 6 months is that like their prefrontal cortex, so they're the whole reasoning, like the whole thing that goes in the front part of their brain, like that pretty much don't work for a good while, or it doesn't work the way that it should. And so you're trying to get these kids to calm down when they don't even know like what the frick is going on. And then as you kind of like accept that and learn that, it kind of makes parenting easier, but you don't always get it right. And then in those moments of stress, but then you have moments like 30 seconds after the stress where they're like, "Come play, daddy." And you're like, oh, and you probably would have seen it around your family. Like, anyone that's been around young kids would experience it. Like, you just have golden times, and then it can flip on the flip like that. It's nuts.
In which round was it? Finale and and beer game. We had Texi's family around, and he's got 3 young kids, and one of the days we were just all sitting in the garden, like the kids are playing and all that sort of stuff, and they get along like really well, and all of a sudden you can just see like something like you can like you said, in 30 seconds it can be a different ball game, and then the next 30 seconds like there might have been an issue, but it's all resolved.
They forget, bro,
and it's fantastic.
It's so funny, like, because that's one thing. Like, I've said to a couple of mates, like, I've probably consumed an unhealthy, like, when I love something, people around me know, like, when I love something, and it's not like I'll put my hand up, like, I'm clinically diagnosed with ADD, but aside from that, like, when I love something, I truly like want to know everything. So the amount of YouTube that I've consumed, and just articles, and even just learning about like my own bike and my own skills, like it's just ridiculous. So, but one thing that I haven't seen, and I understand that, because as a professional racer, or just in this world, like any sort of pro athlete or whatever it is, you don't want your kids, your private life on show as well, when pretty much 90% of your life is in front of a camera. So it was actually really cool in that vlog to see Texi with his kids. I was like, oh, that's nice. Like, there's a bit of reality, because like obviously the reality of a pro racer or yourself as a mechanic is different to what people would live every day. But when that camera's off and they're not racing in their home, like, that's their real world. So it was actually really cool to see Texie like laxing with his kids in the van and just being a dad. Because up until that point, I didn't actually know that he had chillins.
Yep. Yeah, and that's the good thing with Texie is like what you see on camera is what you get. Like he's a good person. He doesn't like, they might have a bit of a joke and stuff like that. Like
on
camera.
yeah.
But they're just having fun. So yeah, like you don't need to talk about your kids and all that sort of stuff like all of the time. Like when if they're on there and like it's just him being him. That's cool.
I like that. I thought it was cool. It's funny. At the start of this year's like series and vlogs, obviously, everyone was waiting for Jack. Like I was just thinking, people said Specialized and then this team and that team. I was like, I wonder if he'll go with something like, YT, like a direct to consumer brand or something like that, obviously coming from where he did. And then like when a YT came out and then the team announcement came out, I was just like, it's going to be super interesting. So obviously he's got such a great, relationship with, Party Boy and Bomber. Like everybody knows that that's a tight crew. Like that's a tight crew. So it was going to be like, holy, as viewers of this content, we're going to see this, this whole thing unfold. And it's so cool to see how, and I don't know, I observe it as this, whether it's a thing, but like Jack seems to bring out the best in the people around him and see that comedic side of like how Texie was like, not like closed off, but like not too open to the jokes. And then he just, got into it and assumed that role.
Yeah. I think, like Jack's that kind of person, isn't he? Like he's a lot of energy. Like his personality is infectious. Like he's just good to be around. So, and I think like what's really difficult and what comes across as closed off on the camera, like I feel like I am on a personal level very closed off when the camera's around as well. Like it's just you need to get used to that. So as much as like people come across that way, I think early on they can sort of open up, be themselves. It's really it is a bit weird actually. Like it's not, I don't know, some people just get along with it easily, like Jack. But there's others that struggle with it, and I think like everyone's just opened up a bit now.
Well, I think being in front of a camera isn't for everyone. Like conversating, even like this, isn't for everyone. Pardon me, but it's very much. I think that's why I enjoy content like Jack's or content of it, because there is a big sense of reality to it. Like it's very raw, it's very natural, but he just seems like he's unequivocally him, like yourself. Like there's what I am getting from you now. I mean, obviously you've got a job to do. Like I don't know how many times you must rebuild a bike, pre-race, post-race, clean, this, that. There would be so much that you're doing that the cameras don't see, but it's cool to see everyone just be themselves. Like yes, we have a joke and we put on some laughs and stuff like that, but it's cool to see the team gel the way that it does.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of work that goes on behind the camera.
But I can't even begin to imagine.
But like I think like Stagsy does a really good job at trying to, I guess, get everything through the weekend. So like your pit set up and stuff like that, like track walk, like obviously the cameras and stuff follow Jack and Texie. That's what everyone wants to see. Pit set up every single week. But like the team does gel really well, which is really cool, because something I think I was a little bit nervous on, and I'm sure Jack would have been a little bit nervous, is like going to a German team. Like, you know, like we didn't know anyone or anything like that. Obviously,
it's brand new, Jack, like completely new. Yeah.
Yeah, like Jack would have had talks with staff and stuff like that. You know, before he signed, obviously. But yeah, you just never know what you're walking into. But we've got a great group of people, and even though we're, you know, trying to learn a bit of German, they speak English, all of them, and but they're just good people as well. Like they're good to be around. Like they have a laugh and stuff. It's not just all like to the point.
It's not all business. Yeah. And on that, I remember, I can't remember what episode or, you know, what vlog it was, but Stagsy asked you a couple of questions. I like, so what's happening with the bike today? And you just mentioned you rebuild it. When you say you rebuild it, like, you know, the team's bikes, whether it's, you know, you're at the downhill events or you're doing Jack and Texie's bikes, when you say rebuild it, is that just like everything down to the frame cleaned and then back in? Like, what's that process look like?
Yeah, I guess it depends on what part of the weekend and stuff like that you're in. But what you'll usually do in sort of like before the race weekend and stuff starts is pull everything down. So like seat stay, chain stay off. You know, the fork and stuff like that will go to RockShox for us, or SRAM.
Yep.
And yeah, you basically making sure that every bearing and stuff like that is working correctly. If it's not, then you're replacing it. You're doing like things like putting a new set of pads in, bleeding brakes. Yep. Just like, and a really thorough inspection. That's I think the biggest thing that I guess people don't really say, I guess, like as a mechanic, is like people note the things that they're replacing and stuff like that, but you've got to be really thorough, because you want to what's the word, like you want to preempt anything that could happen or happening
100%,
or it happens. So you don't want anything to go wrong. You want to like start and see the signs of anything. But you know, like most bikes nowadays, like our bike is really good. It's really good to work on. We don't have any sort of like issues with particular areas and stuff like that. So yeah, basically you're pulling everything apart, giving it a good inspection. If something's not 100%, you're either replacing something, or typically you're replacing something. You're not sort of bending something into place or anything like that.
Yeah, gotcha.
Always got enough spares for bits and pieces.
Oh, yeah. Would always be there.
Yeah, you might actually repair something on the mech nowadays, because you can replace a lot of parts on those with the new transmission. You might not replace a full derailleur like you once would have, but yeah, you're just getting the bike back to a brand new
status. Yeah, that makes sense, because like when it's in that brand new whittle status, and you know, we're here to win races, we're here to do our best. Like, can't be lacking in that department, because like the last thing you want to be thinking about is my bike working properly going into a race. You know, how long are you actually, you know, obviously I don't know about the timing of things. When are you like kind of one of the first guys on site? Because I've seen quite a few videos of you driving the van and getting set up. Are you like there, bike build, you know, team rocks in? Like, how much time is there? Like, how long does it take you to get that whole process? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, so I think like if we're building a bike from scratch, like where you know, for example, like we at the start of this trip, like I went across to Germany and built the bike and stuff like that. There's the custom bikes, that's right.
Yeah, was it the Miami Vice one you're talking about?
Yeah, Yeah, so we you know, build it from scratch. Like we don't get a frame that's like assembled or anything like that. So you assemble the frame, you put the frame protection and stuff like that on the bike, and then you're, pressing everything in, cutting steer, doing all that. I would say that like to have that to sort of Jack's race spec, like I could get it done in a day, but I typically take like a day and a quarter, day and a half to do something like that.
So you're not rushing, yeah.
Yeah, like build wheels, all that sort of stuff. So it takes a long time, but we don't always have to go from that level. Like we have frames prepped and stuff like that, where I've had BBs pressed in, headsets pressed in, like obviously the frame together. So yeah, what we do at the start of a race weekend though, that takes a day. So we get there super early. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't say super early. Like 7:30, 8 o'clock to the pits, get started. They're pretty long days. Like we're sort of like rocking into the hotel at sort of 7:30, 8 o'clock, like a lot of the days. But throughout the whole day, like obviously when the guys are out riding and stuff like that, we're not working on the bikes. This is sort of like, practice days or, that sort of thing. But we're prepping other things like could be the race wheels, or even just like going through the vans and stuff like that and making sure that we're like stocked, and could be a visit to SRAM. Like you're always doing stuff, but you're not always busy.
Yeah, I imagine there would always be something to do. You just said before, like building race wheels. Does a fresh set of wheels go on before race? So they have practice day. Does a fresh set of wheels go on before practice day? Before race day.
Before race day, yes. So
interesting.
That we sort of like just manage a little bit. So for example, like if there's any ding or anything like that, I'll build a new rim into it. We won't put like a brand new hub or anything like that in. But again, you're, checking bearings and stuff like that, making sure that it's up, like rolling 100%. But yeah, if there's any dings or anything like that in the wheel, I'm building a new rim into it, even if it's just a small ding. We'd fly all the way, like halfway across the world, or to have something small let go. Like we do, make sure everything's done properly and thorough. But a front wheel that has no dings in it, it's held good tension, we'd run that again. Like
okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, we try not to throw away unnecessary things. Like we obviously go through a lot of tires and stuff like that.
That would get shredded.
Yeah, but we try and keep as much of that and sort of give those to either fans or like YT staff if they're still in like decent condition and stuff like that. Throw away a bunch of stuff for the hell of it.
Yeah, it'd be like very counterintuitive to there'd be a use for every part, regardless of whether it's good for a race bike or not anymore. There's a place there's a place where like whether you can give it to a fan or like it comes into a giveaway or like it goes to a staff member to use. That's cool to know. Like it's very hard for me to not like nerd out, and like I'm in no way a mechanic. I very basic, what I can do with a bike, but I understand all the bits and bobs. So it's really like interesting to see, from someone who's a pro race mechanic to like the whole process behind it. And because like you said, we only get to see what we see through the media that's, put in front of us. And one of the reasons I started the podcast is like, so I can, not only can I want to get a lot of Aussies on, but these are things that you don't really get to hear about a lot. I didn't just want to have races. I didn't want to have celebs. Like I was like, oh, it'd be cool to have, you know, some mechanics on, because again, there's a side of this that they get to see that you know, we won't ever experience from this side of things.
Yeah. There's like, everyone's always got something interesting to say. Like, I like listening to the pods that like Aaron, Troy's mechanic, has been on a couple.
Yep.
Also, John Hall, I worked with him back in 2000 also. And just like, I like hearing, well, from those sorts of people, because like, I guess that's my role as well, but you can always learn from different people.
Yeah, 100% you can.
Yeah, it's just like, yeah, there's obviously 1,000,001 pods, vlogs, all that sort of stuff from the races, and I really enjoy that stuff as well. But it's nice hearing from the other roles within the team. It'd be good to have some team managers and stuff like that listening to, like, to be able to listen to them on podcasts and stuff too, I think.
I feel like that would, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I've had some thoughts about like who I'd like to get on, but it's crazy. Like, people ask me, you know, when the next episode coming on, and I do try to stick to a schedule, but like, I might film 4 this week, and then for 2 weeks I just cannot get anyone. 2-3 weeks a month I just can't get anyone, and it's just, you know, you got to be respectful of those times, and you know, obviously people are. It's a privilege for me to be able to sit down and, you know, yarn about these things, and because time is precious in this world, big time. You know, man, I got a flip. I should have asked, how are you feeling? Because like, so many people in those first two, like, or when it went over to Europe, like, obviously pretty much a whole YT team got sick, or like people were having sniffles. It seemed like everybody, like all the different vlogs, like, I don't feel well, like everyone was sick. That was nuts. Are you good?
Yeah, all good now.
Oh my gosh.
It was some crazy bug, hey. Like, yeah, there was a few of us that got it within the team. And our team manager did a really good job at like separating us all like fairly quick. Like, you know, so the other staff and the other athletes and stuff like that didn't get sick. So yeah, it was we had like, Jack basically had a house to himself, like Stagsy and I basically had a house, and then like the other staff that we had sort of like, what was the Leergang round where we were like really quite
cooked.
And so we had a lot of staff there because it was the downhill and the EDR. So yeah, there was people scattered everywhere, and for like, I think it was pit setup day, I didn't feel really that well.
Yeah, I remember the vlog. That was rough.
Yeah, I was like, I feel dehydrated or something, like it'll be fine. Pushed through, just got worse and worse, and then started throwing up, and then got the runs, and yeah, it just seemed to not go away. Like it was longer than 24 hours, which most bugs are. And then then the week after I got like a cold, or like it wasn't really like the flu, but just like super blocked up and no energy. And unfortunately, like I only had it for like a week and a half, 2 weeks, but Jack just had it for basically the 3 races. Like, he was
so brutal, man.
Yeah, had to clear gang out. Super hard for him, like when you know, like you're employed to race your bike, and you get to do that like sort of 7 or 8 main times in the year, and to not be able to do that once is like a really hard decision. And but it was the right decision, but it's a really difficult one. And then to be on the mend for the Canazei Val de Fassa round, but still not 100% at altitude, and then like really tracks, like they're always physical, but then to have like
that climb, man, oh my gosh, that was filthy.
Yeah. So
people were suffering, like chest in the bar, like,
yeah,
pedal, you piece of shit. Like,
yeah,
oh, bro, brutal.
Yeah, everyone was like gonna struggle with that climb, like, because it was like pretty significant, sort of like, I don't think it was quite mid stage, but close enough too. So yeah, tough one.
It's crazy because, you know, I was chatting to someone about like Jack's performance at that race, and you know, to go 9th, like top 10 in the world in a professional standard isn't easy in anything, but when you have like when you're in a sport that requires your oxygen systems to fire properly, and Jack doesn't really, from what I've watched, like it doesn't make heaps of noise, like he puffs a little bit on climbs, like, but in the races that he did, in the videos I've seen, like hearing him like breathe that way, I was like, man, it actually sounds like he's suffering. And then that climb at the end, like you see him flick his helmet off the end of the race, and he just almost mumbling to himself, like, man, that was like 101%. Like, that was everything. It was so nuts to think that if he had been healthy, like, you know, what could have been? He seems to be in a really happy space. Like, man, it's tough to watch.
Yeah, we made a couple of like a good change to the bike after finale. Just like a little tweak geo wise, and I think like that's sort of like improved like the bike a little bit for him. And so yeah, he's in a good spot, like happy within the team and all that sort of stuff. But
yeah,
just going back to like the climb and seeing how much like those races and stages were taking out of him, it's like you can see when they come down to I think it's technical assistance zone, or the TAS, you can see the difference in like the way he recovers. Like these last couple of rounds, like finale, he was coming in and he looked like really, really tired after the first couple of stages. And it's not fitness, and I've gone road riding and stuff with him, and like he's one fit dude.
Yeah, I believe that.
Like all year round. And just seeing like the recovery just wasn't there after the stages when he was sick. Like,
so hard to do when you're sick, bro.
Yeah, so like, to go 9th last round, like, yeah, everyone was really proud of him. Obviously not the results that we're sort of there for, not that there's pressure from the team, but like he has his own expectations. And
yeah, you can tell that he knows what he wants of himself. Yeah, 100%.
But we have a couple of months, like we said earlier, come back stomping.
That's it. What does this couple of months look like for you? There's one thing I wanted to know. Like, it's very odd, like compared to like other race circuits, like in DH and the EDR, like it's like packed, big gap, end of year, off season. What do you do? What does like it look like for the team? Is this just like recoup training? I mean, actually, what does it look like for you being in your position?
Okay, so basically, like in my position, we've organized a bunch of parts and stuff like that for Jack back home. Like there's still some bits and pieces that we need to organize. So I at the moment am just liaising with Ricky Boyer from back home. He's the practice mechanic, if you like, for Jack. So liaise with Jack and Ricky, make sure that we've got all the parts and stuff like that either organized or he's already got them. We need to restock for the next races if there's any sort of particular parts that we've either like getting low on or run out on. Like we built 2 custom bikes, a Red Rocket this last trip. So there's lots of bits, and then you like might break stuff, and where we also drivetrain with texting and stuff like that. So a lot of parts get used up. So we need to make sure that we've got all the parts and stuff organized. So emails to team manager Shram, like just sort of liaising with that sort of stuff. And as for my role with Jack, like I don't have too much to do until we sort of fly back to Europe.
When's the next? Where's the next round? Sorry to cut you off.
Do you know what? I know they're both in France, and I can't tell you any more than that. I am one of the ones that stays very low key on all of like those sorts of details because I don't need to look after those.
You're just like, here's a ticket, be there at this time.
Yeah, like obviously when we get closer and stuff like that, like all of that information just like through plane tickets and like talk and stuff like that, you know exactly what the plan is. We get an email from our team manager Gunnar with like a schedule for the week or the 2 weeks, so we know exactly what we're doing. But there's so many moving parts all the time with like the bike, what's going on like within the weeks and stuff like that, that you can't be thinking about heaps of unnecessary stuff. So
there's not really time for all that.
Yeah, so I just worry about like what I need to do, and like obviously if I'm on top of all my stuff, I can help other people and all that. But it's just about being organized and thorough, like in this time off, like make sure we have everything sorted. Like I drove one of the vans back to HQ after Val d'Fassa and pulled everything out, gave the van a clean, and just sort of like not restocked it yet because we'll do that once we've got everything back at HQ. But just made sure everything was like sort of back in its place and all that sort of stuff. But when I'm at home, it's basically just emails and WhatsApps. Like I don't have too much to do.
That's not too bad. It's like I imagine, like, I mean, obviously, you know, as athletes and racers, got to train, that have media obligations, this, that, and the other thing. But I was like, man, I wonder, like, surely it couldn't be too hectic, you know, for a mechanic. When you're talking about restocking, you mentioned, and we were talking about building before. It's just a question that popped in my head. Obviously, fresh tires go on for a race. How many sets of tires in a race weekend are we going through? Like, because you could have a flat or you could jag something. Like, are we talking 3 to 4? Is it less? It's just one of those curious thoughts that I have. Like, what sort of, when you say you've got to restock, tires wise, like, what does that look like? How many sets are we looking at?
Yeah, well, like as for tires, like, and there's a bunch of parts that we don't need to restock at HQ. Like, there's a lot of stuff there, but you know, like, sort of, there's always bits and pieces, like you know, handlebars and stuff like that. We always like stock of in the van and stuff like that. But in Jack's bend and all that sort of stuff, like that's just one of the things that we need to get a hold of a few more bars before next trip away. But tires wise, I sort of allow 4 sets that like we usually run, which is an Assegai up front and a DHR 2 for the rear. So 4 of each of those for a race week, plus mud tires. So a set of wet screams and a set of shorties. And we haven't even put any mud tires on this whole season.
It's been pretty dry. Like, normally come race time, like, it seems to be way less rain this year than there was last year.
Yeah, like Derby was wet, but like the dirt. Mud tires at all. But we got some for Medina because that has the potential to be really slippery. So yeah, we had them there for both those rounds, and as I said, didn't need them in Derby. But Val de Fassa, there was a bit of rain in practice, around practice time. There was meant to be a big storm coming through, like the actual crazy storm that was kind of expected didn't come through.
Yeah, I remember the clouds like it looked freaking gnarly at one stage.
Yeah, and they shuffled practice around a little bit and stuff to suit. But because we pretty much knew that we were going to be racing in the dry, like we're pretty much just always going to back up on dry tires. Like I'd spoken to him about it, and that was his call. So basically I have sort of 4 sets for the week. Like definitely new tires for like
race day.
For race day and for practice day. You just want to try and keep the bike, and this goes with the build and stuff like that, and like you want to try and keep everything feeling exactly the same all of the time. So that's like suspension, like obviously you might do a area if like you're lacking in a particular area or need to adjust for the tracks. But yeah, you want the bike to feel the same all of the time.
That makes sense. The worst thing, like I said, I mean, the worst thing would be like to get on and something isn't, running smoothly. Like you want it to be the same bike from last round to this round and so on and so forth. Weird question. Everyone talks about the Capras being so quiet. And like even obviously it's a race bike. You've got a mechanic, making it this way all the time. But compared to a lot of bikes, it does seem super quiet the way that it runs. And like even in the videos, is there something to the way that they're built that makes them that way? Or is it something that you've noticed that is like, they run quite quiet? Because obviously you're riding one yourself. Is it just the way they're built or how things are routed, or what is it about them that runs that way?
I think it's like a combination of a few things. Like obviously the way it's like routed, or like the clearance and stuff like that the chain has, the chain protection. We add some slapper tape in a couple of like little spots and stuff as well.
Gotcha.
We use a downhill chain guide as well, instead of like sort of one of the like Duro style ones. I don't think that necessarily helps for noise particularly, but I just think that like it's a little bit more narrow and stuff like that. So yeah, it doesn't so much help for noise, but it's just one of the things that we do differently. And also the transmission is quite well, so that's another thing. But we didn't have that throughout the whole year. Like we got those.
When did that come on?
We got those during our test camp in January.
Yeah, gotcha. All right.
So
interesting.
when we were doing some testing with SRAM, Jack actually had that transmission on last year, I think. At a couple of rounds, but yeah, we didn't have all of that stuff until like I think they'd done like a week of fun riding or something like that.
What do you think of that? I don't know how much you can share, obviously, like because you guys do a lot of work with SRAM, but like, is it like one of the gnarliest things that you've worked with? Can it really take the beating that I've seen some gnarly videos since it came out of what people have put it through. Is it really like that? Like, do you think it's worth the coin? I guess I could ask.
I am a SRAM fan. So
yes. Okay.
Like, and this is completely like nothing to do with like the team or anything like that.
Yeah.
And like we don't like we're in a unique position with a team and stuff as well. We're not like, we don't have like a bunch of sponsors and stuff like that we need to keep happy and all that sort of thing. But
so dope.
I would 100% have that new transmission on my bike. Like I've got the Axis stuff currently, but when that stuff becomes like sort of, I want to say more readily available, when there's like more of it out there and stuff like that, I'll have a combination of stuff on my bike. Like I probably won't have the XX stuff.
Yeah.
I'll 100% have a model of the
Gnarly.
so it's cool.
Did that whole like idea of changing under load, like I come countless chains I've blown up because I've made that absolute Gumby maneuver of doing so, like, and it would have such benefits for a racer as well, you know, like having something like that.
Yeah, and it's going to be a game changer, or is a game changer with e-bikes. So
Hugely.
Like Jack's got a couple of e-bikes at home, and yeah, as soon as we can get that on it, we're gonna, because stuff's awesome. Like
100%.
for under load and just like having that power and torque.
So Texie's got a dream bike, you know, a dream build. We've seen Miami Vice. What's Painey's dream bike looking like? If we're gonna, like, you know, cross the I's and, you know, dot the I's and cross the T's, though, what do you, if they said, hey, we got something in store, like we'd love some ideas from you, what's your custom Capra looking like?
I reckon it would look like an old school Peter Brock like racing car, like that sort of livery.
Oh,
yeah. So like the sort of blue and red kind of mobile, like blue, red, white and mobile days. That would be 100% it.
I really hope the right person sees this, because I would love to see that. Not only would I love to see that bike, because like when I haven't watched Bathurst in years now, but when I was a kid and you turned on, you know, racing on whatever channel it was on, like Brocky was, it was the man. And like to have something like that on a bike would be so sick.
Yeah, I can't remember who did it last year for Worlds on the downhill, but there was a couple of sort of like car themes. There was
Laurie Greenland.
Yeah, he had something, like I can't remember what that was in particular now, but yeah,
Lightning
sure,
McQueen from Cars.
That's it. That's exactly
what it was. So sick.
Yeah, that was
so sick.
And I was into that, and that's what had me thinking about it. That's why it was so easy to think about. I was like, yeah, I've thought about that one.
I'm ready. I'm ready to put my order in. That is so dope. Man, it's gnarly. Like it. When though, like, does that mean they've got like a bare Capra frame and then it just gets painted from scratch? And it would be the same for the lowers, I imagine, as well. Like it's just like got like an enamel coat and then everything goes on.
Yeah, so we got the raw frames, and then they were sprayed from there. Not exactly sure how the whole like lower thing worked, but yeah, that's definitely how the frames went. It was like from raw, and then they weren't like assembled in any way, and then they got sent away to be sorted.
It's intermission time.
Oh yeah, that's right. Who was it that had the Pastrana custom bike?
I didn't see that.
Oh flip, who was it? Oh, I'll have to send you a photo later, but just on the subject of custom bikes, someone from Rampage last year had a custom bike which was dedicated to one of Travis Pastrana's like race bikes, or one of his bikes that he completed some like world first trick on, and it was possibly like the sickest thing that I've ever seen. I don't know if he actually... Huh?
That is pretty cool. And I reckon just anything with the 199 on it would be like mad.
Absolutely it would be. That's a mountain bike frame. Oh, where is it? Oh man, I'll go down. I'll be chasing squirrels if I. Yeah, but it was literally the coolest. It was possibly one of the coolest things like I've ever seen. I've seen some super wild customs where people like people have it's not Fresh Paints of Whistler. It's some guy on YouTube, I can't remember, but he did like a whole Whistler like mountain range on the frame, and I loved it, but I thought could never ride it.
It has to be wall, you reckon?
Has to be wall art because it was so intricate, bro. Like literally, like I'm talking like silhouettes of birds, like down to things like, and the guy's talking about, it's for a customer of his. He's from da 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 da, and I just thought I don't know if I could ride it because after I spent the cost of a bike on painting it, if I scratched that, I'd have to check myself into a ward. Like I'd just be distraught, Mate, we'll just have to speak it down to the Peter Brock Capra is coming. I want to see that bike, man. That'd be dope.
Yeah, well, I got some family back home that it's really really close, mate. In Jindabyne that sprays bike, stuff like that, and yeah, he's already sort of like said, oh, we could do a custom build or whatever, but I don't necessarily hold on to bikes for like long enough. Like I absolutely love my bikes when I have them, but I just don't get attached to them or anything like that. I don't know if I could keep something for
wall art,
and I want to if it was done up with something like that.
Yeah, it's got to be wall art. I know, because people have asked me the same question. I'm like, if you could have like a custom paint, I just don't know if I could. No, unless I was like, oodles and noodles, like, coin, like just loaded, then yeah, I'd just get it painted again if I cracked it or grazed it or did whatever. But it'd be too nice to look at. Like my first Julie that I snapped, like I just hung it up where I was like, oh, I don't want to throw that away. Like, I haven't kept anything else, but I could tell you like, oh, if you had a dream build, I could tell you the components, like the color of the frame, like it'd be very simple. But like when it comes to a custom paint, I'm like, oh, actually, it would have to be something Nike orientated. That would be freaking gnarly. Like this,
crazy wallway.
yeah, there's a few pairs there. This particular box, like this orange and brown, is probably like my favorite era from Nike. I'd love to see that. Would be sick on a frame, like something like that with swooshes. Like you can put a swoosh on the rim, but then that would get hung in here, and I'd probably never ride it.
Yeah.
It'd be one of those things. Where do you like to do? What do you like to ride, man? Like in regards to like trails and things, like that. Do you prefer flow? Like what's your go-to when you're out on a bike? If you're going for a pedal, I mean, I don't know what's around you where you are, but like what's your go-to? Like what do you like to pedal and ride?
That's a good question. Like where I live, actually, we've got next to no riding. So like it's very like short hills. So an e-bike would be great here because you can like punch up in sort of like, a minute or so and then get 30 seconds maybe of like sort of downhill. But as for mountain bike wise, I've only got my Capra here, so there's nothing really too much around that's worth riding. But when I'm sort of back in Oz, or what I like would ride all the time was King Comber Mountain, and that's just like a whole bunch of sort of like, I don't know, technical trail if you like.
Yeah, I've seen a fair few videos of it.
Yeah, but I don't mind riding like anything really, like just as long as the down matches the up. Like I don't mind climbing for like 15-20 minutes or something like that for like, sort of a couple of minute trail. Like but when it's like 10 minutes up and 30 seconds down or something like that. Like
Painful.
It's just it seems like such a waste of time.
Painful. Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, to be honest, I just like riding my bike, and I've gone like through the years, like I was really, really heavily into mountain biking. I don't know, I want to say from about 06 to 2013. And then from 13, like I basically just rode a road bike and didn't worry about riding a mountain bike. I was so burnt out for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, something like that.
Truly.
And I still followed like the World Cup and all that sort of stuff. Like I was still interested. But yeah, just didn't really ride mountain bikes so much. And still had a hardtail, like dirt jump bike. I could go down the BMX track and stuff like that. But no downhill bike or anything. And yeah, only when I sort of like, I think it was the year before, must have been 2018, I like did a couple of the EWS qualifiers and stuff like that. And like I was absolutely frothing on mountain bikes again. And yeah, and I'm like sort of still at that point. I've been back here for a couple of days now, or like a good part of a week.
Yeah.
And I'm like itching to ride my mountain bike. We're going to take my partner for her first mountain bike, like proper mountain bike ride.
Yeah, gotcha.
Wales. So yeah, real keen for that. So
that'll be gnarly. I cut out of it. Did you say Bike Park Wales?
Yeah, Bike Park Wales.
Oof. Ooh. Ooh. Take me there. Damn.
You gotta kind of ride like drive 3 hours to get to like somewhere that sort of has that kind of what I was talking about, like some kind of combination. Although like I'm starting to meet a few more mountain bike riders and stuff around here now, and there is like a few spots to ride. Like you don't have to travel 3 hours, but like to get like good proper riding in, you really need to get to Wales or like go North England kind of thing.
Yeah, it's funny, like being in, Southeast Queensland and some of the group chats I'm in, as much as mountain bikers are super, super passionate people, I've never seen like a body of people. There's probably going to offend some people, but I'm not too fast. Like people whinge a lot, man.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the hell? Like, now here's you telling me, like, obviously you live in like a pretty freaking large city, and you get to do something like Wales, Bike Park Wales, you got to go 3 hours. Like if you want some decent, all-terrain downhill riding. Boomers, like Boomerang Farm Bike Park is 20 minutes drive for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's nuts. Like if you look, I mean, yeah, there's, world standard stuff in Tassie, and, I think in Australia, like it seems to me that like people are almost like, oh, they want this or they want that. But there's so much that is so close to us. Whereas like in a lot of other major cities around the place, you have to get out to get to what we have close.
Yeah. Like as an Aussie, I didn't realize, at least like, where I was from, like we have a lot of riding as well. And like, you don't realize how lucky you are until it's like a change of scenery or something like that. Like I come here, it's just different. Like, there's not riding all around and stuff like that. It's like you have to make a fairly big effort to go somewhere and go riding. Like it's a weird one, but definitely lucky in Oz. I think in like most, at least like if you're on kind of the East Coast, you've got riding everywhere kind of thing.
Whereabouts are you from, Aussie?
So just north of Sydney, about an hour north of Sydney on the Central Coast.
Yeah, all right, cool. Yeah, plenty of riding around there, damn.
Yeah, heaps. Like we had a wobber from like 2007 onwards. Well, there was always tracks there. There was like Amazon and stuff in like years previous to that, which is an awesome track. But like the Monkey Trail was built sort of around that 06, 07 time. and that was like one of the best downhill tracks in the country. That's an hour north. We had like a couple of good tracks, like Kincumber. I lived in Kincumber and the hill there. Yeah, it's not massive. Like it's only sort of, I think about 150 meters high or something like that. But like the actual terrain length.
That's enough though. You get some speed up. You can get some speed up.
Yeah, and we had like, you know, it's a 10-minute tire pedal up, or you can like shuttle, and you know you can probably drive to the top in 5 or less. And that was like 5 minutes from our door. So like, yeah, just so good.
Yeah, that's wild. I couldn't imagine. I have some stuff about 5 minutes from my house, and I've just recently found another spot. We haven't even gone to the. I don't even know if I can actually get up to the peak yet, or whether it's safe to. But it just to venture out into our bush. Like I know it's dry, it's rocky, and it is what it is. But like, I can ride my bike to some sick riding type thing. I'm very, very. I like the mindset that I'm in, and I love that I've met the people that I've met. But it's so cool to actually hear, you know, different stories about different areas and places in the world, and you know, find out like what it is to actually have to not have to travel, you know, 3 hours to get something like that. It's nuts.
Yeah, I don't know why, but over the years, like you hear like a lot of people, or I think it used to be a question that was asked a lot more, but like, how do we have so many Aussies that come out of like Australia when we don't have like the big mountains like the Alps and stuff like that? And I think it's like, I probably got a little bit more knowledge on it now, like, or just like that extra bit of knowledge, but you can ride obviously all year round in like majority of the places.
Correct.
But the amount of riding that you can do as well, and like very like different locations, different terrain and all that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's just different for other countries. Like, so even though, you know, like someone might have the Alps, they can only ride those tracks for, I don't know, I'm going to say 8 months of the year, maybe a little less even. But the people in the UK, like they have to deal with the
rain.
weather. You have to be mentally strong to be through that, like get through like winter here. Because, you know, yeah, you can tuck up and watch YouTube for 5-6 months of the year. But like literally there's like 4 good months in the year where you just like, yeah, just want to be outside and it's like nice weather and stuff. But yeah, you've got to get through like the other 8 kind of thing. And if you can do that, then you're going to be mentally strong. And I know Mush, like he's from Ireland.
I was going to say, he always like pray every race. He's like,
yeah,
like he wants rain like every race. And I was like, he just must be so used to it from growing up in it.
Yeah. And it's just like, you see videos from their winter and all that sort of stuff, and they're out there and they're having a good time, like smile on their faces, like him. And I think he rides with Ronan Dunn a lot.
Yeah,
I'm sure an Irish crew, but yeah, they're just all like, when most people would be miserable, like they're genuinely happy. And like that's, yeah, just everywhere around the world, like there's a reason why someone's good. And I just have kind of thought about that recently, why the Aussies could be so good, and just comparing
very
my life,
interesting,
what I can ride. Yeah,
you know, I think, I mean, obviously there's places in Australia that rain more than other places, but it's pretty much summer, or what the rest of the world will call a summer, like almost all year round. Like it's or even when it does get cold, it's not like, you know, you were saying like in London, like there's just rain, or in Ireland, like it's just rain. And if you're not prepared to ride through that, like when it gets cold here, it doesn't mean rain. Like you can put on some, you know, some what do you call it? Like some unders, like your suit on, you can put your jacket on, and you can still go ride. You can still go to your favorite downhill track. Like you can still get to Boomers. It might be freezing, but you know, you can still go to Stromlo. You can still go to, like, it's nuts. So it makes sense. Like I've actually never thought about it like that. Like, we have some gnarly talent come out of this place, and you think, oh, we don't have the Alps. But what do we have? We have conditions we can ride in almost whenever, wherever, like all year round. That's a very interesting point.
Yeah, it's just just something like I don't know why. Maybe it's just my circle and stuff like that, but we've sort of always thought about that, and just something I thought about recently.
Man, it actually has my brain ticking. Like, there's so much young. I try to follow the local races, all the local stuff that's coming up here, like, as much, and there's so many crazy talented people like around, and I just can't wait till this like next generation of, obviously, you've got the Jordan Williams and you've got the Jacksons and stuff like up there at the moment. These absolute, freaks, but like even before that, like there's people that I've seen that are younger than these boys, and in the very next few years they're going to be holding their own as well. So it's going to be crazy to see what comes out of Australia in the next 3 to 4 years, 5 years, as they're actually old enough to race.
Yeah, well, like I think with guys like Jackson, you're sort of seeing a little bit of that sort of motocross mentality of like, you see the kids, or like someone will talent spot these kids at a young age, and they'll have support through their whole sort of like adolescence or something, like they get of like that racing age, like sort of juniors and stuff like that, and now stepping up into the elite, like they've had support the whole way through, and you're seeing what they can actually do with that support now. And I think like that's going to come from every country pretty soon, I think, and I hope it comes from Oz for sure.
Oh, it's going to be so wild. Like I was saying, when that first UCI post came out about Jackson's win, I just kind of clicked. I was like, holy, he's overall champ for juniors. He won. People couldn't do all the what ifs, like what if Bernard didn't crash? What if old mate didn't do this? Like, he won hardline. Now he's on top of the leaderboard. And the way the point system is going, like if he was to win overall, like this year, which
wouldn't be out of the question. Like he's shown.
No,
that,
it's not.
Like I think he had a little bit of an injury or sickness or something before the start of the season. I'm not 100% on that, but I think he's shown, like with his nationals in New Zealand, like yes, I know all the big names aren't there, but like that, the Cannonball result, the win now at Val
he's
Soleil, on. Like he can be consistent as well, and like he's obviously put together championships as well, like in the juniors. So yeah, it's not out of the question, is it?
Oh man, it's actually like, it's boggling. It's going to be I really, and Troy Boy, fourth, like just his grin alone was like, his cheesy little grin on that podium was so friggin' epic. Like I can't wait to see, and I can't wait to see Jack healthy and racing, and like what he can give to it in the space that he's in with the team that he's in, man.
And also, I think like the good thing going forward, to take a positive out of a negative, like we're not in the overall hunt for this year's series points now, so it literally can be about like going for the win, and then building toward next year as well. Just getting confidence back, and I'm looking forward to the French rounds for sure, because it should be a full refresh with this couple of months off. Obviously, like the grind of training and stuff like that never stops throughout the season. But it should be, he should come out swinging, I reckon.
Oh man, I'm keen to see it. I'm actually so keen to see it. I'm excited. Like I think that as Aussies, if you're a fan of mountain biking, they're keen to see it. Can you give us any? Someone actually said to me, mechanics got quirky stories that they can tell they can tell people because they see it from a different perspective around it. Is there anything that you could share with us that's made you laugh over the season? Any moments that glisten out that you were stoked about, or even in moments on the bike, for yourself, bro?
You always give yourself a little bit of a pat on the back when, just like, I don't know, sometimes there's just a feeling that you get when it's like everything's just gone together like perfectly. Like there's never issues with the bike going together or like when you send it out, but there's sometimes when you just like fuck yeah, on point, and like, but like nothing like quirky, but like, yeah, just like I enjoy those times where you just send the bike out and you're like, I couldn't make with everything that's going on, like the whole package, like you done anything better. Like it's just everything's snappy and all good, and like that's a cool moment for me. Obviously we kind of like ride the lows and highs on like results and stuff like that, but I don't have any kind of quirky stories or anything like that.
I was watching you guys. I can't remember what vlog it was, but you, Texie was like throwing cans and like, I think it was from the trail of the video you sent me. I think it was the same trail, and like Jack and Texie are sending these big airs, and then I seen you like, and you were boosting it too, and then like one of the tables you're just like, nah. That's too big. Like, that's not me. It must be gnarly riding behind that and just seeing this guy like flog through the air, and you're like, I'm not ready.
Yeah.
I'm pulling out.
Yeah, it's super like it's super fun when we get to go like riding with the boys and stuff like that. But we're quite often riding like blind. Like I'd never done those trails before.
Oh my gosh, and they would be so fast.
Yeah, and it's like weeks between when we get to ride and stuff too, right? Like I haven't ridden my mountain bike in Schladming that day, which is like 4 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago, or something like that now. Like
holy.
So you're like always a little bit sort of rusty. And yeah, like I've always got in the back of my head as well that like yes, we can go riding and there's an element of like danger there or risk, but I always try and keep the risk to a minimum, like keep within my comfort zone. And like, yes, I could do that jump, but I just didn't see any value in it. Like I wasn't getting anything out of it. So
yeah, gotcha.
I work the next week. So it's like, I just keep that in the forefront of my mind.
You'd have to, because I imagine being in that group of people, it'd be so easy to just want to boost it. Like,
yeah. And then that's the other thing is like, you're riding with like, some of the fastest guys in the world and trying to stay full limit, but you also want to ride with them. And because like I never competed at their level, but I would say that I rode okay. Like just give myself a pat on the back.
Did freaking
in the early years. And so like I want to ride with them, and like I can if it depends on the track too. Another thing that I've said to the guys is like on a downhill track, like when we did one run of the Schladming downhill track, the rest of it was like sort of the offshoot tracks and stuff like that, or the other. And I was able to keep them in like sort of eyesight, even if it was like a berm or two away for like probably 2 minutes of the track.
Not bad.
Fine. But as soon as we get to like an enduro trail or something like that requires like, and I like it's a little bit less predictable. Like the downhill track, you kind of know to some degree.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
like your left, rights are all going to be like sort of fairly similar with a different kind of angle or trajectory. But the enduro track, you just don't know what's coming up. And so they're gone in like 2 corners. It's just the ability for those guys to like think and react is so much better than me.
That would be wild.
Enduro track can't keep up. Downhill track can for a little bit.
That's gnarly.
So.
It's gnarly to think like it just. Well, that's kind of like someone mentioned, about Jackson's race, like how quick these top guys react and make decisions. Like it's really hard to like actually calculate like how fast those things are happening.
Well, I think I'm out of the downhill scene like a fair bit, but like just it's on a like it's always going to a different level, right? Like all sports are, and like people are talking about like risking life and stuff like that to get a result. And like I was watching the Tour de France stage yesterday, and like there's multiple crashes, and it's theoretically it was a safe finish. Like it's on a car racing track, like it's super wide, no road furniture. But my point is like people are taking like risks to win, and I think like the downhill guys, they're not necessarily making decisions and stuff like that in that last run. Like it's all pre-programmed. Like they've like obviously learned that sort of stuff. But just seeing like the way the bikes react and stuff like that is super cool, especially at Val di Sole where it's like a lot of dust and stuff, right? And like a lot of big holes, like seeing it dance around and the in control but out of control kind of.
Yeah, that's it.
Like that's pure downhill for me. Like that track, like maybe if it had a few more turns, could possibly make it a little bit more exciting. But like, damn, like that was really, really cool.
Man, yeah, I was frothing. That was probably the best race like of the year, to see some of the top guys get like really unstuck, and then like, few wildcard placings, so to speak, Troy getting his spot. Like it really put people like on their toes.
Yeah. Like Troy's run, we've actually spoken a whole lot about downhill. Like it's still, downhill is like really cool. And like, watching Troy's run and stuff like that, that was sort of like the first bit where it got really exciting for me, like watching the telecast, and it sort of like, it just built and built and built. I think like the telecast is doing like quite a good job at that. But another thing that Texas mechanic Patrick and I like, he goes between, so he's Sean's mechanic as well for the downhill team. And like we sort of spoken about like, what do you prefer, like pits wise and like working with like either, and both have their pros and cons. Like I get to go ride my bike with the enduro, and like the enduro bikes are cool. Like we have a whole sort of different side of components and stuff like that you don't have on a downhill bike. Like simple stuff like Garmin mounts, and we put power meters on the bike, and there's like trying to tool storage and like all of these like really tiny things that you're trying to kind of optimize, but you don't have to on a downhill bike. But there's something about a downhill bike that's just like super cool, right? Like just it's kind of like the F1 kind of it's like the top kind of, not even the top discipline, because like you look at the XC and like, man, the trucks and the like,
wild,
all that sort of stuff, like every discipline has its like top notch about it, but there's something cool about downhill.
Oh, there 100% is. Like I said to I said to my wife, I was like, I want a downhill bike, and she's like, what for? Like, what are you? And she's like, wait, isn't that what? Because I just got a new bike sitting in the garage, and isn't that one? I was just like, well, yeah, that's gonna do everything that I need it to, especially for what I'm riding around here. But I just want a downhill bike because it's sick. Yeah. Like, if I've seen people have them, like, you can't ride it anywhere, like, unless you're doing downhill or park, really. And even then, like, the majority of enduros are going to shred everything at a park. Like, yeah. But they're just sick. On that note, though, what was I going to say? We were talking about, obviously, we've spoken a bunch about downhill. Someone the other day mentioned to me, like, how easy it is to make a mistake in enduro with the unpredictability of the trails. How difficult are some of these trails? Like, because obviously, like, I haven't ridden stuff like that, but you know, the trail that you followed, Texie and Jack down, like, they disappeared. Is it just like continual rocks and roots? Like, the turns aren't like, because the turns aren't like really bike parky apart from like a couple of those stages that they had earlier on. I'll ask it like this. Do you think it's harder to get an overall? Do you think it would be harder to get an overall and get consistent results in enduro than it is in downhill?
I think they're their own beast.
Yep.
Like, yes, you see some riders able to cross over like really well and stuff like that, but honestly, if they were the same skill set, we'd probably see more of the riders doing both if like the weekends allowed that.
Yeah, got you.
Yeah, I just think like it's just two totally different things. Like, hard to really answer that question. But
yeah,
to answer your question about the tracks, like, there's a little bit more sort of awkward stuff in enduro, and it's the ability to read the terrain and then ride it like really quickly. Whereas like the downhill, right, you get track walk, you get practice runs on the same track. You're only ever doing the same track. Like, you can build in that. Whereas with the enduro, and I would like to see it, and some of the races, maybe most of the races would maybe even disagree with what I'm about to say here, but I would like to see somehow the riders get like kind of less riding on the actual kind of terrain that they're riding on. Like, I know they don't have a shakedown and stuff anymore, but try and even things up. Like, you see some people, or like, not, and I'm not even trying to like pinpoint particular riders, but like someone will get to an area and ride the area for like 2 weeks before the event, and they only close before the event. So even though you don't know what you're going to be riding, you could still be riding the trails that you'll be racing. So somehow I would like everyone to stop riding the trails before the event, and so they only ride practice, they do track walk, and then they do practice, so they get one run down each track, which they currently do, and then you race. But somehow, and I think it just needs to be like a gentleman's sort of agreement, or like, and ladies,
because you can't stop people from riding. That's the thing. Like,
no, that's right. Like, but it just needs to be like a friendly sort of like, yeah, like, no one's gonna ride that sort of area, like, for, you know. But I know that's quite impossible, but like, you get the gist I'm trying to say.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I think, because I saw Jesse Melamed touch on that, but I didn't get like the full context, because whatever short or reel was posted of it, like, I didn't really have like the full conversation, but I think that's exactly what he was talking about. And then I kind of had to read through the comments, and like, And like there was people saying it should be like, you know, show and go, so to speak. Like I don't know what enduro was like when it first started, but like you'd rock up, you'd get a practice, you'd qualify, and then you race. Like it seems, I kind of agree with that. Like I won't lie. Like you come in, obviously you can't stop people from rocking up and riding, but it would be cool to see it a little bit more regulated, and I think that would level it out a bit more. Because someone also said though the winners are still gonna win.
Yeah, 100%. I think like there's like just sort of, I guess from talking about that, there's two things that spring to mind. Is like, one, previously compared to now, there's been more fresh tracks or fresh areas to the enduro circuit. So like if you look at this year, we're going back to quite a few events that people have already done. So they already have a track knowledge. Whereas maybe in the past years, they've had like a fresh kind of place to ride.
Yeah, gotcha.
But also like no one wants to be behind the 8 ball at the moment. Like if there's kind of like this consensus that if someone is riding the area, I'm not particularly saying like the tracks they're going to be raced in like the month beforehand, then everyone wants to do that because they don't want to put themselves on the back foot. But somehow that mentality needs to disappear. And I don't know how that happens. I'm just going to create talk about a problem and then not come up with a solution.
Yeah, I know, but I think this is another, like, this could be a facet of said problem, is money as well. And like the pressures put on athletes to perform, and then how that pressure outworks in athletes and their needs on wanting to return to the people that look after them. They're like, damn, so-and-so is probably going to win. How am I going to try and get an edge?
Yeah, everyone's always
going to try and get this. Like, I'm like, man, I need as much as experience I can get. And it's hard because I don't think you can't say that people are being malicious by doing this either. Then there's the question of, is it fair? Then there's the question of like,
they're certainly not breaking rules. Like no one's doing anything wrong. Like not trying to say that, but I think everyone enjoyed the rawness of the enduro, and that's just from what I'm hearing more so than anything. Like it's my first year on the enduro circuit, and I absolutely love it. Like I haven't been to a lot of places. Like I'm riding like fresh trails and stuff for me, and like it's not a beef I have. I'm just kind of like talking about stuff that I have heard.
And you've observed yourself. Man, it's going to be interesting to see if it. Okay, let's ask this question: How does the UCI, like how do you curb that? Like, do you up? Okay, maybe they mark out the trails and then border it off, or like how does that look like if they're going to regulate it so you get your walk, your practice, your race? How does that get regulated then?
Honestly, I think like there is no solution that the guy or any sort of governing body or like local, like the people that put on the races and stuff like that can do, because they don't want to shut down all of their trails in the week/month beforehand, because a lot of these places are like built off tourism and stuff too, right? Like
yeah, gotcha.
So you want people to be riding the trails and having a good time. Like, so I think the only actual solution is without like, someone thinking outside the square here will probably come up with something different. But like, I think it has to be some kind of like agreement between the riders, or just like an unwritten rule kind of thing, which is kind of in place, but kind of
not
it's like, no one's breaking rules, as I said before, but it's just like grey kind of thing.
That is a topic that could go on forever and ever.
For sure, yeah.
And do you have any pet hates as a mechanic, or does anyone have any bad habits that that makes you like squash your eyebrows amongst the team?
No, there's always people that do things differently.
Yes. Okay.
And I think like part of being in the team is like accepting when someone does something different, like, and like if someone was doing something wrong, like you might
gotcha,
or whatever, but like people have their different ways of doing things to get to the same result, and you learn from that. Like every mechanic that I've ever worked with, whether it is in a shop or like even it could be someone out on the road or like at the mountain bike track, and you see them doing something,
gotcha.
You can add that to your repertoire if you like it or think it works better or whatever. But you're in a close-knit area and stuff like that for like could be months at a time. I think the last trip was 8 weeks I spent away. So
that's a long time.
Yeah, like part of being on the team is being able to get along with everyone. Yeah, you don't sort of like kind of, I don't want to say like mock people's, like you just don't stir the pot.
It is what it is.
And as I said, like you just learn from different people, or they might learn from you, and everyone that's there has a right to be there as well. Like they've gone through like the same kind of processes, got the experience. So that's just pretty much it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think it's totally fair. I kind of I was like, oh, he might answer it like this, but like from what we've spoken about and what you've communicated to me, I imagine it's like not only are you a mechanic, but like the base starts with you. Like when you're done, you get that bike off the rack, you give it to the racer. If you're not emotionally sound and clear on what you're doing, that energy kind of comes out.
Yep.
And can affect the people around you. So you've got to be like, it actually has just given me like the realization, like you've got to be like collected. Like you can't let it slip, because that person is looking at you, like your team is looking at you. I mean, you can't, man, we're not perfect. We're humans. We're going to crack. We're going to have moments. We're going to get mad. We're going to get sad. We're going to get sick. But like that person's looking at you to have confidence that you are emotionally stable. Man, I never thought about it from that point of view, that you're stable enough to be like, I'm going to get my job done. This bike's going to be perfect.
Yep. That's something like you 100% on point there. And that's something that's like also it gets discussed within teams. It's like I think some people have that natural process of like thinking about that stuff, and then others don't. And that's something that if you don't have that, then you need to sort of get that, and pretty quickly. Even things like keeping spaces tidy and stuff like that as well. Like, naturally I'm certainly not messy on my workbench, but I'm not tidy either. Like things like folding rags, putting like your 5mm next to your 4mm and stuff like that. Like I'm not that person. But when my work is kind of finished, or I notice that my workbench and stuff is like getting a little bit out of hand, I'll stop, clean it up, like get back to like an orderly fashion. And that just sits in with like what you see visibly going on around the pit. And it's why we have like a professional pit set up with the enduro as well as the downhill. Like the downhill, pretty much everyone has it. The enduro is a lot more lax in a lot of ways. And I'm not talking like I'm talking as a whole. Whereas, where we've got quite a professional setup, and every time we set up the pits, we look at a better way of not setting up like where the chairs go and stuff, but like hiding little bits and pieces. We've got airlines that come from the roof. We've got lights on and all that sort of stuff underneath the pit. And you'll just always you've just always got to strive to be better in every single thing that you do. And that's from like,
I love it.
Having clean vans, having a professional setup, just the one thing that you won't probably see from me, having one of those like foam toolbox, like where all like the cutouts and stuff like that is. Like,
bro, it's wild.
I love it. I think it's fantastic that people do that. It's just completely not me.
And how is there? Okay, firstly, how do you organize your kit then? Like, if it's not all, because in my head, I just assume like I've got all my tools, like for the tools that I do have. I mean, I don't have everything, but the tools I do have, like they've got a neat space on my shelf in the garage, next to gym equipment and stuff like that. But if it's, I just assumed everyone had a pack like that. How do you set up your gear?
So if you look at mine, I have, so mine's like a standard Nipex box. So they have pallets in sort of like kind of designed around mostly electrical really. But I like sort of just every one of my tools goes back in exactly the same spot that it came out of, but it's just like kind of more placed in there than sort of like having it secure individual spot.
I got you. Yeah, that makes sense.
Like where I put a 5mm, you could fit a 6mm, a 3mm. You could probably fit a hammer in where I keep my 8mm. But the thing is, everything has its own spot. And the reason why is, one, I'm not creative enough, I don't think, with all of like the cutouts and stuff.
It would take so much time to do it. It would be something that I would want someone else. I won't be like, I want this toolkit, make it happen. I wouldn't have the patience to sit there with a friggin' scalpel, draw a pen line around each friggin' layer, cut that crap out, and then put. It would be. I think this is a part of it. It's one of those things. If you want to do that for me, fine. But I'm not going to enjoy that process. I'll love the end result, but frick that process, like, of getting it there.
Yeah, 100%. And then there's another part of it for me as well, is like, if you add a tool to the repertoire, if you to the toolbox, if you add or change something, or if you work with a different component, like with our, like, I know we've, like, this has been spoken about a lot with various different things through the year, like YT, we can choose whatever components that we want to put on the bike.
So sick. Oh, that is so sick.
Which is, absolutely fantastic. But if we decide to start using a different product that I need a different tool for, it's like, where do you put that tool if you have like cutouts and stuff made specifically?
Yeah, okay.
Whereas I have a lot more flexibility with my box. So there's, again, pros and cons like with everything. So I'll get a new box probably, maybe even before the next rounds. We'll see. But basically, I'm gonna get something like a Nipex box, just like bigger, maybe a different brand. I'm like just still in the process of searching, but it'll be similar to what I've got, just bigger.
That is very interesting. You'd have to change that whole setup just because of one tool. And then you're like, if you've got that foam layer thing and you've got to get a brand new tool, you're going to have one whole layer that has one tool in it.
Yeah, and it looks a bit funny. I don't know, like you see a lot of toolboxes and stuff like that, and you're like, there's some mean looking toolboxes out there, but for me, I'm a very practical kind of person and not super creative, like I said. So that process of going through it is just one that I don't want to go through.
I don't want to endure. And it's like I gotta my mate that I work with, he loves cleaning. Like like he said, he feels calm when he cleans right, and I hate it. I love the end result, but whenever I'm cleaning the kitchen, or just after dinner or whatever, I'm just like, oh, right after I eat, I just want to go edit, or I want to train off. The kids are up. I want to do this. I'm just like, I love the clean kitchen, but the process too much.
Yeah.
I'll still do it. Like, don't get me wrong, I still get it done, but I'm like, oh. So again, I was like, if there was a practical way to do this, like if I could just frisbee the dishes over the back of my head and, and they'd be clean, fantastic. But obviously that's not the case. That's really cool to know that, man.
Yeah. It's funny because I'm going to contradict myself a little bit here. I said I'm not like the kind of person that puts the tools evenly on the table and stuff. But I'm 100% the kind of tidy person. Like it doesn't matter tidying the van at work, or I'm like the guy that has a pretty damn tidy room when I'm away, living out of a suitcase. Like I make my bed each day, not to the point where like someone from the army would come in and like bounce the dime off it, but it's made. I enjoy having a clean, tidy car, clean the kitchen and all that sort of stuff. Like, I really do like having things tidy, but
yeah, got you.
Not like I'm certainly not OCD about those things.
Yeah, I get it. Man, I'm thoroughly happy with how this conversation has gone, bro.
Nice. Cheers.
It's been friggin' epic. I just looked at the time and I was like, holy, we've been going for over 2 hours, bro. That's been
some okay snippets out of that one then.
Oh, bro, definitely. Like I'm so stoked. Like, I mean, obviously, Jack and the guy, that whole team, like, has got so many eyes on him at the moment. But I was just like, man, it would be so sick, to hear someone's story, like hear a mechanic's story, hear how, he does things, and get a different, perspective, and like, because it's everybody wants to hear from racers, man. Like I was saying before, like the reason that there is a business. The reason that there is a job is because these people that are willing to send themselves down these mountains in insane speeds, and like they have, this crazy skill. But I just thought, what, I was like, man, it'd be so sick to have Painey on and just see what sort of perspective, you could provide, man.
There's nothing wrong with more content, right? Like everyone, like I want to see what the races are like, doing and thinking and all that sort of stuff. And like I know everyone, that's what they want to see, but extra content, right? Like
yes, 100%.
We live in a world where it's just everywhere and anywhere, and if you can hear someone else's opinion, or maybe you learn something, or like I don't feel like I've been super insightful or told you like many things that you probably otherwise wouldn't have heard elsewhere.
I learned heaps, bro, big time.
Oh, that's fantastic. But like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with hearing someone else's opinion, I don't think.
Oh, not at all. I actually said, well, the episode I filmed before this, and I actually still have to film episode 4. I've done 5 and 6. I just haven't been able to lock down 4, but it's been really cool, like, because some of the chats that have come out of these, right? It's been really, really, really cool to see people's just genuine opinions on life stuff, what's happening here in Australia with mountain biking, like, your opinion, even though some people might not agree with it, like I agree with it about, talking about before about, races and teams rocking up, well early and riding the trails, like, it's all valid information, man. And like, I think the beautiful thing about podcasts is that, someone's going to get something out of it. Someone's going to get, like, it doesn't matter the story, that someone's going to be like, man, that's valuable to me. That's valuable to me,
Right. We didn't just ramble for 2 hours and no one gets anything out of it.
That's it, bro. Thank you so much, guys. for listening in and tuning in. And Painey, I've honestly, man, really, really appreciate your time. Like, I know you've got, I mean, you're on that break, but it's not easy to, lock things down, especially when you're in another country as well. So I very much am thankful for your time, bro. And it was really cool to hear your side and hear your story and, get to know a little bit of the ins and outs behind, the mechanics side of things. And yeah, get a bit of insight on the, the EDR stuff too. So it's cool. Thank you for your time, bro.
No worries. Thank you for having me. It's always, it's really nice to like, just have something to do with like the Aussie side of things. Like, just help out an Aussie or like even just, talk to some Aussies and stuff like that. Cause
yeah, I imagine you get a bit homesick sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely an element of that. Like, so yeah, it's just fantastic. Thank you very much.
All right, guys. Peace out. Love you all. God bless. That is the Fully Pinned Podcast, episode 6 with Painey, Daniel Paine. Thank you, my dude.
Yes.
Legend.
The Fully Pinned Podcast.